Churchill only wages this war against the German people to save the British Empire.
What if one general masterminded the fall of France in just 6 weeks? What if he pulled off one of the greatest counterattacks in history, only to be fired by Hitler himself? During World War II, Erich von Manstein was considered Germany's most brilliant military mind. But was it all strategy, or was there more to success? How did Erich von Manstein become Germany's greatest general during World War II? Let's find out. Erich von Manstein was born into the military, literally. Born on November 24, 1887 in Berlin, he was destined for a life of strategy and discipline. His biological father was a high-ranking Prussian officer. He was adopted at birth by his mother's sister, Hedwig von Manstein, and her husband, General Georg von Manstein. From then on, he carried the Manstein name, one deeply rooted in Germany's military tradition. Surrounded by some of Germany's top military minds, Manstein's future was never in question. His family didn't just serve in the army, they helped shape it. More than 24 of his relatives were high-ranking officers, until his uncle, Paul von Hindenburg, would later become Germany's president. In the Manstein household, military service wasn't just expected, it was inevitable. At 7, he was sent to military school in Strasbourg, where strict discipline and relentless drills shaped him into a future officer. By 12, he moved to an elite cadet school, excelling in strategy and tactics. His training continued at the Prussian War Academy in Berlin, where he mastered military history, logistics, and battlefield command. Every step of his education was designed to mold him into a leader. By 1906, at just 19, Manstein was commissioned as a lieutenant in the Prussian military, launching his career in one of Germany's most elite units, the 3rd Guard Grenadier Regiment. This prestigious force was known for its discipline and battlefield effectiveness, giving him first-hand experience in leadership, unit cohesion, and strategy. As a junior officer, he trained recruits, led field exercises, and learned the finer details of command from seasoned veterans. His talent didn't go unnoticed. He was selected for the Kriegsakademie, Germany's top military academy, where he sharpened his skills in logistics, strategy, and large-scale operations. While many officers focused on battlefield tactics, Manstein had a broader vision, understanding how individual battles fit into larger campaigns, and how wars could be won through superior planning. Even early in his career, it was clear he was more than just another soldier. He was a strategist in the making. When World War I broke out in 1914, Manstein was thrown straight into chaos. Assigned to the Western Front, he was part of Germany's push through Belgium into France, following a plan designed for a quick victory. But things didn't go as expected. Instead of a fast-moving war, Manstein found himself in the nightmare of trench warfare. The battlefield was unlike anything before. Artillery pounded the ground day and night, machines cut down soldiers in seconds, and barbed wire turned open fields into deadly traps. The old ways of fighting were useless. Now, survival depended on endurance, careful planning, and quick thinking. Manstein adapted fast, leading his men through the maze of trenches, making life-or-death decisions under fire, and witnessing unimaginable losses. He fought in key battles, including the Battle of the Marne, where Germany's advance was stopped, forcing both sides into a stalemate. With neither able to break through, the war became a brutal grind, and Manstein, like so many others, realized this fight was far from over. By late 1914, Manstein was sent to the Eastern Front, where war looked nothing like the trenches of France. Instead of a bloody stalemate, armies were constantly on the move, launching massive attacks across vast landscapes. Battles weren't fought over a few yards of ground. They stretched across entire regions. Manstein quickly saw that speed and mobility, not just brute force, would decide the outcome. This lesson stuck with him for the rest of his life. He fought in Poland, the Baltics, and the Balkans, taking part in major offensives against the Russian Empire. But if he thought war here would be any less brutal, he was doing wrong. During one battle in Poland, he was wounded by shrapnel and sent back to Germany to recover. While healing, he had time to reflect. The old way of fighting wasn't working. Victory wasn't just about firepower. It was about outmaneuvering the enemy before they had time to react. 6 months later, he was back, but this time, instead of leading troops, he was working behind the scenes. Assigned to a staff position under General Fritz von Below, he helped plan Germany's final major offensive, the 1918 Spring Offensive. It was a last-ditch effort to win the war before American reinforcements could turn the tide. It failed. Germany was on the brink of defeat, but Manstein walked away with a new understanding. The next war wouldn't be won through sheer numbers. It would be won by striking fast, staying flexible, and keeping the enemy off balance. Germany's final offensives failed, and defeat was unavoidable. Manstein saw morale collapse, supplies run out, and the growing realization that the war was lost. By the time the fighting ended in November 1918, he had reached the rank of captain, an impressive feat for someone in his early 30s. But Germany's surrenders changed everything. The Treaty of Versailles cut Germany's army to just 100,000 men, forcing thousands of officers into early retirement. The once powerful military was dismantled, and the country was left humiliated. For many soldiers, including Manstein, the future was uncertain. But he was one of the few allowed to stay in the newly formed Reichswehr, Germany's small post-war army. The 1920s were chaotic. Germany faced political unrest, economic collapse, and the rise of extremist groups. While the country struggled, Manstein focused on strategy, helping to modernize Germany's approach to war. He became a strong believer in mobile warfare, an idea that would later shape Germany's Blitzkrieg tactics in World War II. In the 1920s and early 1930s, Manstein worked with top military thinkers like Heinz Guderian, helping shape Germany's future war strategy. Although the Treaty of Versailles banned Germany from building a modern army, officers found ways around it. Through secret training in the Soviet Union, they studied armored warfare and rapid strike tactics, preparing for the conflict many believed was coming. When Hitler came to power in the 1930s, Germany's military expansion began. As the country openly defied the Treaty of Versailles, Manstein's career took off. He played a key role in reorganizing the army and refining fast, aggressive attack strategies. By 1936, he was a major general, and by 1938, a lieutenant general. His influence in the high command grew as he helped Germany's next moves. War was on the horizon, and Manstein was at the center of it. When Germany invaded Poland in 1939, kicking off World War II, Manstein was chief of staff to General Gerd von Rundstedt, one of Hitler's top commanders. The invasion was fast and brutal, lasting just 5 weeks. Manstein's job was to help plan and coordinate the attack, making sure German forces moved quickly and efficiently. The campaign proved how powerful Blitzkrieg could be. Tanks, infantry, and air support working together to overwhelm the enemy before they had time to react. But even as Poland was being carved up between Germany and the Soviet Union, the German high command was already looking west. Their plan to invade France was almost identical to the failed strategy from World War I, marching straight through Belgium, expecting France to collapse under pressure. It was predictable, risky, and in Manstein's eyes, a mistake. Manstein had a different idea. Instead of attacking head-on, he proposed the Sickle Cut plan, a daring move that sent German forces through the Ardennes forests, a region the Allies thought was too rough for tanks. This would allow the Germans to bypass France's heavily defended Maginot Line and strike deep into enemy territory, trapping French and British forces before they could react. At first, the plan was rejected. The German high command saw it as too risky, but Manstein refused to back down. He took his idea directly to Hitler, who immediately saw its potential. In May 1940, the strategy was put into action. German forces stormed through the Ardennes, cutting off Allied troops and racing towards Paris. The speed and precision of the attack shocked the world. Within 6 weeks, France had fallen. Manstein's strategy had worked flawlessly, and his reputation as one of Germany's greatest military minds was sealed. With France defeated, Germany turned east. Manstein was given command on the Eastern Front, where he led armored divisions deep into Soviet territory. He played a key role in some of the biggest battles of the war, using fast, coordinated offensives to push deep into Russia. But the war in the East was different. Soviet resistance was fierce, and as winter set in, Germany's rapid advances began to slow. As the war went on, things started to fall apart. The The harsh Russian winter, strong Soviet resistance, and Hitler's constant interference turned early German victories into slow defeats. Manstein often clashed with Hitler over strategy. He believed in smart tactics, knowing when to attack and when to retreat to save his troops, but Hitler refused, demanding that every position be held no matter what. Manstein's biggest battles, Sevastopol, Kharkov, Kursk, proved his skill as a commander. He won key victories, outmaneuvering larger Soviet forces and keeping the front from collapsing, but no matter how well he fought, he couldn't change the course of the war. The disasters at Stalingrad and Kursk showed that Germany was losing. By 1944, Hitler had enough of Manstein's arguments for retreating when necessary. Manstein believed Germany needed to preserve its forces, but Hitler saw any retreat as weakness. Their disagreements grew until Hitler removed him from command. His war was over. After Germany's defeat, Manstein's legacy became complicated. He was a brilliant strategist, but he was also part of the Nazi machine. After the war, he tried to separate himself from the crimes of the regime. So was Erich von Manstein truly Germany's greatest general, or was he simply the most successful at rewriting his own history? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into military minds of World War II, check out our next video.